Good afternoon to all our viewers and most Center and ABF Stockholm on the situation right now ongoing and evolving in Belarus. I dare to say that everyone these last few days has been following the very interesting and also in many ways encouraging developments in Belarus these last couple of weeks. After Alexander Lukashenko claimed victory in his sixth presidential election on August 9th, we've seen demonstrations, strikes, resistance emerge all over the country. Europe's last dictatorship seems to be in a free fall. Will Lukashenko resign? And how can we support the democratic opposition in their struggle for a free Belarus? This is what we are going to discuss with two very interesting guests. And joining us from Belarus, from Minsk, Mr. Ihar Barisau, the party leader of the Social Democratic Party of Belarus, and also our Swedish foreign minister and longtime international secretary for the Social Democratic Party in Sweden, Mrs. Ann Linde. To both of you, most welcome.
Hello.
So, Ihar, let me start with you. After decades of democratic struggle and harsh oppression in your country, these peaceful demonstrations, of course, really inspire and give hope for a democratic dawn in Belarus. But this is, of course, a struggle that has been ongoing for quite some time. What is it that makes it different this time? How come people this time take to the street in such huge numbers to demonstrate?
All what happened in Belarus, I think it's something unbelievable right now, because we never had something like that before. I think it looks like a thunder for Lukashenko, because during the last 26 years, everything for him were quiet. If compare situation with last election, now people are more brave. In 2015, Belarusians worried about situation with Crimea and the war in Donbass, and they were very passive. And we had only 4 candidates. 3 of them were sparring partners of Lukashenko. They didn't want to win. They tried to get up to the power, to be as a part of this system. In 2020, we had a candidate, Viktor Babarika. On my mind, he gave a hope to the people and changed their minds. He shows the people that it's possible to win. We need to unite and change the system together. He wasn't being registered as a candidate and he was imprisoned, but the plan of change is still working, and people united and support Svetlana Tikhanovskaya as a candidate of protest. Since election day till now, it's 17 days. We have protests everywhere, not only in the capital, but also in province, even in rural area. We never saw from 300 till 400,000 people in the Minsk in one time, never. Even during official events. I think after this election, Belarusians existing as a political nation, and everyone felt that we need to change political system because people are more progressive than our authorities. For our pity, we paid for our freedom and democracy huge price. 6 people were died. And on my mind, it's not the end because few people still disappeared. It's a brief situation.
We will come back to what will happen in a short while, but Ann Linde, may I then turn to you? You have been following, of course, the developments in Belarus very closely, and I know also over the years in your role as international secretary and even before and after, so to speak, you have been visiting Belarus many times, and you have also in various ways supported the democratic opposition. So what is happening now? How do you, in your role as foreign minister, put pressure on Lukashenko to resign, and how can we support the demonstrations?
Well, thank you, Anna, very much. And thank you, my friend Igor. We have also been in close contact during this whole time, and also before with the party. We met each other also in November when I and the Finnish foreign minister visited Minsk and met both with the government and the president, and also with representative from the civil society, youth organization, trade union, LGBT organization, and of course the party, different our social democratic sister party, but also parliamentarians who were not this parliamentary election but last election. And before I answer Anna's question, I also would like to say that when I became international secretary, it was in the year 2000. And that year we started a campaign for democracy and freedom in Belarus. And during the years, we had many also local organizations who visited Belarus, and the Belarusian friends came to Sweden, and I would say it was a very close relationship on the different levels, party district, local levels, and also central district. And we also have a specific homepage called belarus.now, and I myself, I was the first time in Minsk in 2003, and at that time we discussed the possibility for women's participation and so on. What we're doing now is different things for different organizations, starting from my own government. Via our development cooperation, we support democracy and civil organization and journalism and so on in Belarus. We had also before some cooperation with some of the authorities, but due to the situation is frozen now. Also, EU has decided to have more support to the civil society in Belarus. EU is also, we have had a foreign ministers meeting where we decided that it was necessary to once again have sanctions directed to people that is responsible for the violence and for the election fraud. This has happened several times since 2000, roughly 20 years ago, you can say. And it has worked in that way that when there has been violence, political prisoners, election fraud, there has been put people on sanctions. So it has been not directed towards the whole society, but specific people responsible for those issues. Then sometimes when the situation has become better, like after 2015, many political prisoners were freed and the opposition got a little bit more space. And then we delisted persons, but now it's time to put back people on the list. It might, of course, not be the same people. It depends on the responsibility. So that is with the EU. Then we have a specific case that is the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE. And that is an organization where Belarus is member, and 57 countries, both United States, the Russian Federation, EU countries, countries from the Eastern Partnership and so on. So it's a very big and wide organization working with cooperation and society. And the chair right now is Albania, and the incoming chair is Sweden. That Albania and Sweden, in the name of chairperson and incoming chairperson, offered both the Belarusian authorities, the president and foreign minister, and the opposition to see if it's possible to get a dialogue, because we have got very, very clear indication from the opposition that it's peaceful, wants dialogue. And also we hope that it would be possible also for the escalation of the violence. I talked myself both to Foreign Minister McKay, and we have not got an answer from the government or the president. And I had a long talk also with Svetlana Tikhanovskaya. We had a very good talk, and she really welcomed help to facilitate a dialogue. They don't want from opposition or government to have foreign interference. And that's not what we are aiming at. We aim for a dialogue between opposition and the authorities, and just to try to be helpful. Thank you, Anna.
I also want to remind everyone that you are welcome to pose questions, and I see that already we have a few in the chat. But before I turn to the audience questions, I would like to turn back to you, Ihar, and ask you, well, the government, the regime does not seem to sort of welcome international engagement, or at least they have not answered yet. What you want is, of course, also to push for dialogue. We also see how evidence of crackdown is starting to emerge. What do you think will happen now? And do you think that we will see a harsher reaction from the regime, or what will happen next?
I think that Belarusians need solidarity of democracy countries. I know that we are in the focus of media around the world, and we are fighting for model of democracy country with free and fair election. Only free and fair election can find an exit from political crisis where we are now. Because we are in situations that Lukashenko don't have people supporting, but he still has supporting from military forces, KGB, and police. It's his electorate now. I think you have to know this information. On my mind, visa-free for ordinary Belarusians will be a good gest from European countries. We are waiting a new wave of immigration from Belarus too, like it was after 2006, after 2010. Then we had the same scenario, brutal scenario, when regime used violence. But today, the scale of violence more huge than it was before. People right now to leave country after violence. I think many of them dismissals because they took part in the strike committee at the enterprises. And I know that also many companies have a decision to leave the country. For example, even today, Yandex, I think you know this organization, they doing relocation office from Minsk to another countries. In another hand, I support idea of personal sanctions against the people who took part in rigged of election and violence after election. I think it's absolutely normal. They have to know that they will blocked and can't move to normal democracy countries. I think you have to stop all kind cooperation with Gong organizations. Yeah, and to stop project with state departments. I mean, with different branch of power, because it's not going to for changes and supporting of civil society organizations. And new media, I think you can do it. And Annalyn talked about that before. I think it's a good idea. You have to know that a few days ago were blocked 72 websites of independent media and political organizations. After election, Lukashenko blocked internet for 3 days, but now we know what is it VPN and how to use it. I heard that even some grandmothers used VPN to read the news in Belarus. Yeah, traditionally in Belarus, we have 3 main players who have influenced the internal situation. It's Russian, it's Germany, and it's USA. On my mind, Sweden could try to be a moderator in this process of political stabilization in Belarus as a country which has a good example of social model and not aggressive foreign policy. I'm worried that fate of Belarus will be decided without Belarus, because a few days ago, Angela Merkel trying to call Lukashenko, and Lukashenko says that he want to speak with her. It's very strange. I think we need a special commission to investigate of all kinds of violence and deaths in Belarus. I know it's internal problem, but is it possible to push this process? It will be good. I think EU.
Oh, sorry,
I think EU and USA can show a level of investment to Belarusians in case Belarus will make a choice for democracy, because democracy for the authority, for Belarusian authority, and for some people didn't connect with ordinary life. People always think about their work, about their food, about how they will spend time and so on. And democracy looks something abstract. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the last one, I think people in Sweden can help Belarusians who need a medicine care and rehabilitation after police violence. Is it possible? It's my propositions.
So he says that he's fearing that the destiny of Belarus will be decided outside of the country itself, and we of course also have Russia as a big player here. And you mentioned earlier that you also spoke to the foreign minister a few days ago. So how is the playing field, so to say, look like, and how do the various actors now act in this current situation?
Well, I think there is a big hope among many countries, especially in Europe, definitely not EU, but the whole of Europe, that there will be a development in Belarus towards free and fair elections. And towards a democratic society. And I think that people now try to compare Belarus with different other countries. Some compare with Ukraine, some compare with Venezuela. And I think all those comparisons are not helpful, because Belarus is a fight for either you're for against Russia or for against the United States or for against EU. My feeling is that this is definitely the Belarusian, big majority of the Belarusian people who wants to live in a free country with democracy and peaceful and with dialogue, and not to say we would like to go this or that way, but to decide for themselves What kind of society do we want in Belarus? And then, of course, that there should be in elections different paths. Social Democratic Party like ER is fighting for BSDP, and others who want to have a conservative, liberal, or whatever, like in normal democracy, their own country. And I think that is what we should support. It's said that we don't want international interference from, that's what the government are saying, and also you can hear that from Russia sometimes. I had a long speech for an hour with a Russian foreign minister, and I think we had a constructive talk with each other, and I tried to explain that OSCE is not outside interference. It's a member organization with Belarus as a member, and Russia as a member, and Sweden as a member. So that is something that should be seen as we are doing together. And I think that is very important, not to put this to be a geopolitical struggle, but a struggle for the people of Belarus to have a democratic future.
A couple of the questions from the audience are quite similar, and it concerns what can EU do now very concretely, and also what are sort of efficient measures to be taken from EU, for example.
If I should just say, it's exactly what I said before. It's very concrete, is to do a directed sanction list, but not for Belarus as a country or the people, but for those individuals who are responsible for violence and election fraud. And the other is to support the civil society. It's very concrete. It's exactly what EU are doing.
And this has, of course, also been a big debate here in Sweden, and we know that Swedish development aid, as also European development aid from European Union, is now also sort of relocated to support also more of civil society organizations, and for all of us to bear in mind what also IHAR underlined, the importance of supporting the free civil society, the democratic civil society, and not these gongos that also exist, and that is also, of course, closely then attached to government institutions. Another question that came from the audience was whether or not you, as Foreign Minister, Anne, feels that it's a good idea to send home the Belarusian ambassador. It could be, of course, a strong signal, but what do you feel about that kind of symbol?
Well, every time there is a problem in a country, there is always those who shout that we should send home the ambassador. I think that's the worst possible thing you should do. And that I'm totally against that. Because if you send home the ambassador, what happens is that the Swedish ambassador from Belarus is being sent home. We will get no first-hand direct reports. We will have no possibility to have any dialogue. But I've been foreign minister for a year, and before that minister of EU affairs, and every time it's send out the ambassador, and I think that's totally wrong. We are not going to do it.
So we're aiming for more of dialogue. You mentioned a few of the things that you feel or urge also other countries, civil society outside of Belarus to do, and how we can support. What other measures do you expect from governments in the EU, for example, to be taken? I know that there has been this joint call from the opposition, for example. What are the measures that you would like to see and that you call for?
I think is it possible to have a good connection not only with civil society or NGO organization, but also with trade unions, because for us it's very important right now. As a party, we have a closer cooperation with Belarusian Democracy Congress of Independent Trade Unions, and we see the situation very strange, yes, and very interesting, because people looks like people demands, they have a political demands in the enterprises, yes, but really situation looks differently, because only 3 of these plans, yes, they organized a strike committee, yeah, only 3 of them, and 2 of them has organizations of independent trade unions, and that is the most powerful enterprises in Belarus. It's Belaruskali and in Krodny, chemical enterprises. And I think free opportunity to develop an independent trade union in Belarus to protect the rights of workers also is a good message for Belarusian power.
One question also from the audience to you, ER. Do you now feel hopeful, or what is your sentiment at these days?
You mean do we see a light in the end of the tunnel?
Yes.
I think
do you see
yes.
that your struggle is
yes.
moving forward,
yes.
and that you. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's the beginning of the end of the era of Lukashenko, because during this year, in this year, Lukashenko lost people as supporters. Now his only military organizations support him, and people out of this process, and people feeling that we need more freedom, we need more political freedom, we want to be a normal country, and we want to live in normal country. I am not sure that many of them understand what is it a democracy. Yes, most of them voted for Svetlana Tikhanovskaya not to support Svetlana Tikhanovskaya as a candidate. They voted to her only because they protested against Lukashenko. They voted against Lukashenko and chosen Svetlana Tikhanovskaya. It's a very interesting reaction, but the same reaction was in 1994. Then people going to polling station and voted for Alexander Lukashenko, not for Alexander Lukashenko because they like him, but because they had communistic party and the candidates from communists.
And may I ask the same question to you? Do you feel hopeful?
Well, you cannot have anything but hope. But at the same time, and to see all those hundreds of thousands of courageous people, and also not the least when the first crackdown from the police towards the protesters and the arrests the first days. And then a lot of women went out with flowers in their hands, and they were dressed in white, and you felt like the spirit was going up again. And you see that 2 weeks after the demonstrations on Sunday was very, very big, and you cannot feel anything but hope for these courageous people who is not giving in. Knowing that it might take time, but it's for peace and democracy and freedom, and it will not be easy. I am worried that, for example, you cannot speak to the president, not even if you're Angela Merkel and others, and I think it would be a very good thing to try to have a dialogue. But the hope for the Belarusian people is, and my admiration for what the Belarusian people have done is very great.
We all feel a great admiration, as you say. And we stand, of course, in solidarity with you, Ihar, and all of your fellow demonstrators in the streets of Belarus. And we do what we can to also support the Olof Palme International Center. We have launched a campaign and also raise support money. You can join us in this campaign on Facebook or via our website. It's a safe way to also support the democratic movement in Belarus. And yeah, you mentioned the trade union as an organization also based with member organizations from the trade union movement here in Sweden. We, of course, will do what we can to also strengthen the relation between Swedish trade union movement and the Belarusian trade union movement going onward. I thank you both. We wish you the best of luck. And once again, yeah, we stand with you in solidarity. Thank you both so very much.
Thank you too.